Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Well, covers both. But anyway, welcome to another edition of Dark Powerrr. And as it so happens, this is our 100th episode. So congratulations to us for getting there, I guess. But also, you know what that means? If it's the 100th episode, that means the 2-year anniversary of Dark Powerrr is right around the corner next month. And just like last time, I have no idea what I have planned for that celebration, for that feast, if you will. But hopefully there's some good quality wrestling to talk about, the same way that there are some pretty good matches this week for us to talk about, particularly on Dark and on Powerrr. So, guys, we're going to get straight to it. Let's go. And we are back. So, guys, once again, I got to remind you, hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. I've been asking you for 100 episodes. I'm going to be asking you guys for 100 more. And if you guys are willing, if you guys want to, consider joining our Patreon. $3 a month is our base tier. We appreciate all the support that you guys do. And if you're not able to take care of, if you're not able to help us out in that way, we still appreciate everything that you guys do on this YouTube channel when it comes to those likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. Because we here at True Heel Heat Wrestling subscribe to quality content. We subscribe to having good matches and good storylines. And that's something that we had a little bit of this week on Dark. You like that on Elevation? You like that transition? On Dark Elevation, we started off with Layla Hirsch taking on Diamante and Xtina K, but she had Ryo Mizunami with her to give her a little bit of backup. This was a nice match. I think it's the longest match of the night for Dark Elevation, but there were some good moments in here. Xtina K, I don't know how exactly it's going to be pronounced. Obviously, it's a playoff of Christina, but Xtina K wanted legit Layla Hirsch. She wanted to try to take her, test her mettle against Layla Hirsch, and Diamante also was saying, I'm going to do my best to try to keep Ryo Mizunami out of the ring. But ultimately, you can't keep Ryo Mizunami out of the ring when you've got the shooter, legit Layla Hirsch. My goodness, she was all over the place, flying around the ring, taking people out. This was a good match for Hirsch and Mizunami to show their stuff and get another win under their belt. I know that we have had the announcement of the women's TBS championship. I don't know if we're going to get women tag titles down the road, but if and when we do, AEW has already built a good number of women's tag teams. And it's crazy because I didn't even remember back when I first was thinking about who the potential teams would be of Hirsch and Mizunami. And then when this episode started, I was like, oh, wow, they have that team too. There's so many different options. There's so many different pieces at play when it comes to AEW, when it comes to the women's division. And they're only getting better. They're only stacking up more pieces. So let's talk about one of those pieces and how she actually fits in, because if I remember right, she has teamed with Mizunami and with Layla Hirsch. Of course, we were talking about Riho. And Riho is one of the first matches that against Xtina K, again, that stood out to me from Dark. She has a short match, just about 4.5 minutes, but it's a nice match because, as always, Riho has an incredible ability to take down people of a much larger size than her. There's an incredible height difference between her and Xtina K, but she brings a ferocity to the ring that's incredible when you consider how she's always polite, she's always smiling, she's always like, just trying to be nice. It's not exactly the Kylie Ray, I'm just happy to be here, but it is just a wholesome image. And Riho is somebody the crowds have eaten up particularly after she won the AEW Women's Championship and she had that inaugural reign as the Women's Champion. And it's good to see her bouncing back. And, just because she was in Japan for a good portion of the pandemic. Now she's moved over here. I want to see them use her more and incorporate her more into the different storylines because there's a lot of options. Like we're saying, they're very, very stacked. Another place where AEW is incredibly stacked is what we would call the mid-card division. And whether or not, Cody wants to acknowledge that, the TNT title is a mid-card championship. It's not the world title. So that is a very stacked division. And right now we have our current champion. We have Sammy Guevara, the man who dethroned Miro. And he comes out for a promo, and he has a pretty good promo that gets interrupted by his opponent for the next night on Dynamite, Ethan Page. And lo and behold, it's going to end with Sammy getting completely bloodied by Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, busted the hard way. Another thing that stood out to me was the promo from none other than Adam Cole, baby. And this was a fun exchange just because of how much Adam and Tony Schiavone don't like each other. And it's really funny to me because of just how much they really, 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 really don't like each other due to the connection of Britt Baker. It's funny because Cole spends more time talking to Tony about the problems that the Elite have had with Jurassic Express Jurassic Express, than talking to the camera, than talking to you and I sitting at home watching on YouTube. It's kind of funny, but in a way, Tony is a great foil. He's a great way to act as a stand-in for the audience, even though there is an audience there in the Impact Zone. But Impact Zone, the Dark Zone, the Dark Elevation Zone. But still, it kind of worked, even though you would want Cole to be looking at the hard cam or at least looking around at the crowd. It works because Tony really does represent all of us in having a dislike of heels, and they're able to play up on that 100%. But speaking of Tony, he also has a moment later in the episode where they interview Tony Nese. Tony talking to Tony. And the premier athlete, Tony Nese, is here in AEW after being released from WWE, and he says that he is going to be doing a little showing and proving as to why he should be here, and there are people who don't deserve to be here, and he's going to start with Fuego del Sol. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that match plays out. I'm sure that's going to be a dark match, part of AEW Dark, but hey, that would also work really well at Elevation, Dark Elevation, but part of me feels like it's going to be on AEW Dark itself. There are some other good matches, just quick hits here and there, but we got to talk about the main event. Just as how this is the 100th episode of Dark Powerrr, I think it's possible that Tony Khan knew that and said, StatKing, we're gonna throw you a really, really good match to cap off this week's offerings on Elevation and on Dark. We are gonna put Bryan Danielson in a match against Aaron Solo. Now, don't get me wrong. If you haven't seen this match, I would completely understand why you would say, but Bryan Danielson versus Aaron Solo doesn't intrigue me. Bryan Danielson for sure, but Aaron Solo has not been positioned very well. Maybe he hasn't, he doesn't showcase that much stuff. But when you're in the ring against the greats, that's when you got to step up. And I got to say this. Aaron Solo in a 9.5-minute match looked better than he has ever looked in AEW. Daniel Bryan knows how to pull the best. I mean, quite literally, as you can see here. He knows how to pull the best out of people. And Solo really, really rose to the occasion. Solo is taking hard chops here and there, hard hits, but he's not just taking them. He's also dishing them back out. And we have QT Marshall and Nick Comoroto on the outside playing the perfect roles of dastardly heels. And I got to say that Bryan really helped Solo during this match. Really, really gave him an opportunity to show everybody why he is signed to AEW. Because, yeah, a guy like Tony Nese, for example, would be really great on AEW, but he's not signed right now. And yes, that is a function of him having been with WWE and just recently released. However, there are plenty of other people on the independents or in other companies that AEW could have signed. There's a reason why they signed Aaron Solo. We just haven't really seen that yet, but we're starting to. And we're starting to see that when he gets into matches with people like Danielson, who are going to be able to help elevate him. And yeah, he took a loss. And normally, I'm not the kind of guy that says people look great in losses. But here, I got to say, Solo really did look good in this loss. I got to give credit where credit's due. And that's because Bryan Danielson is one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world today. But that brings us to this week's episode of NWA Powerrr. And Powerrr starts off with Scion talking about how he is cashing in his Championship Series match or reward opportunity for a match against Tyrus for the NWA TV Championship. That match is going to happen at, I think he's at Hard Times 2. But either way, we are slowly seeing more of this Scion story. Scion is a little bit of gobbledygook in issuing the challenge, not challenge, but announcing the title shot. But either way, it's we're getting things moving along, which is really all I'm asking for, because they've dragged out this storyline for a long time. And I kind of want to see, just let's get some legs behind this. We already know that this has been building towards this. Let's just get to the match. But a match is something that we do have, and we're going to have a lot of matches this evening on NWA Powerrr, and they're all going to be women's matches because this is an Empower episode. This is where we are going to be showcasing the women's division, showcasing women's wrestling, and they start that off by giving us a triple threat match with Chelsea Green taking on Kylie Rae and Melina. It is a number one contenders match. And I got to say, Chelsea Green looked the strongest during the course of this match. She was beating the brakes off of both of these two women. And we kind of are expecting that in a certain sense. Not to take anything away from Kylie Rae, but NWA hasn't really used her that much. They haven't really positioned her as well as they could have. Melina is the living legend, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. We kind of know what we're going to get with Melina. With Chelsea Green, they are kind of putting a spotlight on her, even though she's not really signed to the company, but they are putting that spotlight on her. They had her win that gauntlet match at Empower in the main event. They are now doing this hot mess kind of turn. It's actually really interesting, considering the news that happened this week about Ring of Honor kind of shuttering for a bit, that Chelsea signed with Ring of Honor, and now it may be that the NWA could be one of her larger sources of income because she's now freed up a bit. Granted, she's doing a lot of work also in Impact, but she was signed. Her home promotion was supposed to be Ring of Honor. So we'll see how all of that turns out. But as for this match, it's a good match. And I really liked this moment here where Melina has both Kylie and Chelsea Green, the hot mess, in a submission move. But as we find out, it will be Melina who picks up the win and becomes the number one contender to the title. But that was kind of to be expected. And maybe that's why they had Chelsea Green be the one who had the most spotlight on her during the course of this match, because we kind of knew, based off of where the storyline is going, Melina should be winning this match. Everything that we've seen this back and forth kind of gives us that information, the back and forth between Melina and Camille. Speaking of Camille, Camille has an interview at the desk. She says that she, needed to put a little practice in, get a little, practice. We're talking about practice. Get a little work in, a workout. And so she said, pick somebody out of the crowd and give somebody an opportunity, the spotlight put on them. Of course, she's talking about St. Louis's own Tootie Lynn, because this is a great way to get heat. Just degrade the hometown girl. We're in St. Louis. They're still at the Chase, and get a match against her. And this match is pretty good in the sense that it's great character work for Camille. Because before the match starts, we get an announcement that if Tootie wins this match, she will get a title shot against Camille for the Burke. And Camille does some really great character work in this match. She's rolling in and out of the ring to try to frustrate the face. She's playing the part of the person who is pissed, as she should be, because this announcement is being made randomly out of the blue. She had no idea this was going to happen. I'm honestly starting to be more on the side of the heels about this conspiracy Corgan nonsense, because they're starting to have a little bit of a point. She takes this match against Tootie Lynn without any expectations that if Tootie's were to win, that she's going to get a title shot, only to find out as she's getting into the ring, and I think they're ringing the bell, that should Tootie win this match, she gets a title shot. It just seemed a little hastily done. I think it would have been better if Camille, while she was at the interview desk, said that if whoever her opponent is this Tootie Lynn from wherever we are, St. Louis, whatever, if she were to win, maybe I'll give her a title shot, or I'll give her a title shot. Like, do the fake magnanimous heel thing and then beat that person down. Right now, you're putting the odds against the heel instead of the odds against the face. Seemed kind of a weird option. But that being said, a good match to get over Camille's character and to show that she is slowly developing this character of the Brick House. After this, we have a match between Lady Frost and Sky Blue. This is an interesting matchup because they say that this match is going to have Mildred Burke rules, which involves no closed fists, no coming off the top rope, no throwing your opponent over the top ropes. You have to be within the squared circle, as it were, at all times. Or at least you can't throw your opponent over. The idea is to keep the action within the match. Because as you can see here, you can still take breaks, as Lady Frost is doing, as Sky Blue is saying, hey, I'm doing pretty damn well against this lady here. And Lady Frost is, if Camille is working or developing and getting better at her character, Lady Frost knows her character way better, perfectly almost, in comparison to Camille. Camille still feels like she's feeling out who the Brick House is. She's still learning who the Brick House is, how she wants to act. Let's not forget, it was not too long ago that Camille just didn't even speak whatsoever. In the timeline, it's in the manner of literal days. Yes, it's been about 2 years now, roughly speaking. But in the span of wrestling, it's been much shorter because we had that pandemic kind of break. We've had a lot of just uncertainty of what's going on, and the NWA also took a break because of everything that happened with Dave Lagana. So from that perspective, Camille hasn't had as much time in front of us to kind of showcase and develop that character. She has been doing it on the independent scene, and that's one thing that I do give her a lot of credit for. She is developing. But someone like Lady Frost, who has been this character for a long time, like I've seen her at Warrior Wrestling, really good at what she does. And she knew exactly how to get under the skin of the impressionable babyface of Sky Blue. She's going to find a way to take what Sky Blue is offering her and use it against her. It was a great job from Lady Frost. She picks up the win against Sky Blue in a quick roll-up kind of manner. We have now an interview with J.R. Kratos. Kratos puts over the women and says that the issues with him and Aaron Stevens are pretty big, and he wants Aaron to get his head out of his ass, basically. More of the same. Doesn't specifically address the loss that they suffered. That was Aaron's fault. But he still, is continuing the story. It's just dragging. The same way that the Tyrus and Scion story feels like it's starting to drag. Then we get a little bit of a turn because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the End show up. And particularly it's Powerrr who's really, really upset. And it's kind of an interesting twist because, after all, previously they were faces. Randomly now they are acting as heels. There was no specific turn in that sense. So I'm kind of interested to see why exactly they're doing this. And Powerrr gives us a little bit of an answer. That's because he feels as though he is being disrespected, and by extension, Odinson, and that they are not being given credit where credit is due. And so because of that, he is going to unleash pain and suffering on anybody and everybody he comes across. He says, man, woman, doesn't matter. At least he's sparing the children. But until he feels as though they're getting the respect that they deserve, they're going to beat the living shit out of whoever they come across. That's fine. But how does it factor into the Kratos and Aaron Stevens part? It feels like it doesn't. It feels like it's more shoehorned there for someone to get mad at Kratos and maybe be a stand-in for Stevens, but not really, because Kratos almost doesn't even bother to deal with them. And Powerrr is barely even addressing Kratos. He's more just talking to the audience. Like, he walks away from the interview desk and is yelling at the audience in the chase. So I don't know. I'm not 100% where it's going to go, but let's see what happens. And that leads us to our tag team title match, the women's tag title match. The Hex are putting their titles up against Taryn Terrell's team of Paola and Genocide. This was an all right match. I liked it. I thought that it were a little kind of chaotic, and I felt as though there were some issues with communication. And that is something that just seemed a little weird considering the tag team of the Hex, because they are a pretty well-oiled machine. So I was a little surprised that they kind of seemed as though they weren't able to lead the other two in the match itself. That being said, Marty Bell did a great job in this match of being the underdog face to set up the hot tag for Allison Kay. This was probably match of the night until we get to our main event. But right before we can talk about the main event, we do need to talk about an interview that Melina has, where she is talking about how she's excited to have this contendership opportunity now that she's won the triple threat earlier in the evening. We're not sure when she's going to get the match, but what's important about this is that after they cut back to commentary, Tim Storm has not been on commentary this entire time. It's been Joe Galli, Velvet Sky, and Pope. Now, I know that in the past, I've said that Velvet Sky is not doing that great of a job on commentary. What's interesting is that this week, she actually did a really good job. And I don't know if that's necessarily she doesn't play it well off of Tim Storm, but she played very well off of Pope. That just might be a situation where she's just more comfortable with Pope because of their past in Impact. They know each other. Maybe she just doesn't know Tim Storm as well. And, I don't know. If you have a better personal relationship with somebody, you're going to feel more comfortable with them when you have a camera on you. That's, I know that from doing this with you guys. So I guess, yeah, she did do a much better job this week, and she was able to play off of Pope very well. And that brings us to what happens when they cut back to commentary. They're talking about Melina and the opportunity, and Pope gets a phone call, and he has to leave commentary. And he won't be on commentary for the main event, if I remember right. But I think we're getting a little bit of storyline stuff for Pope versus Trevor Murdoch for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And that brings me to something that I do want to give credit to the NWA for. I know a lot of times I'm a little bit critical of how Billy Corgan is executing some of these stories, and that I feel as though some of them are dragging a little bit longer than they need to, and there are some plot holes. But we are still seeing wrestling from the chase. And that is incredible when you consider how long ago the NWA pay-per-view really was. It was a while ago. And what they did was they did a lot of TV tapings. Now, that's important for a number of reasons. One, they got a lot filmed when it came to content. But what it also meant was that Billy Corgan had to know exactly what was going to happen for all of these episodes. And yeah, you might be saying, obviously, they had to be able to do that because that's what they had to do. But just because it's something that you have to do doesn't mean we shouldn't give credit when you do it well. And this is a great example because this Empower episode, while it is getting done and accomplishing a lot for the women, there are also three things that happened for the men. We had Scion doing the title announcement in the beginning. We have Kratos continuing to talk about the issues with Aaron Stevens and whatever's going to happen now with Perro. And we had a little bit of setup for the world title picture. So even with an episode that is focusing on the women, kind of solely on the women, Billy Corgan didn't forget to sprinkle a little bit of crumbs, enough to keep things moving for Hard Times 2. I'm looking forward to seeing how exactly all of these things continue to play out because Corgan, while he does have plot holes, things are fairly streamlined. But where I just gave credit, now I gotta ding them a little bit. When Kiera Hogan confronted Mickie James, she was saying that she wasn't sure why she didn't have a match on the Empower episode. Additionally, she wanted to know whether or not Mickie was scared of her, or at least ducking her in that sense. Fair. Mickey's counterpoint was that this is not how we do business. We don't do business in front of the cameras. We try to do it behind so that we can talk about everything and be on the same page. Part of being on the same page, from Mickey's perspective, was that she had certain things planned and she had certain things put together. She just wasn't sure if they were all going to pan out. And she didn't want to get Kiera's hopes up. Our main event is Kiera Hogan versus Mickie James. This match is happening because of the confrontation. What that means is that either A, whatever plans Mickie had for Kiera Hogan fell through. Okay. B, Mickie moved whatever the original main event was, which could have been the women's tag titles. I don't remember them saying anything on commentary that it was moved because of the Mickie Hogan match. Or 3, Hogan did have something that Mickie was going to have set up for this Empower episode that was going to be the main event. But Mickie changed that so that they could have this match. It doesn't fully make sense because why would you change your main event that you already had planned? Why would you change whatever you already had planned for Kiera Hogan, assuming it wasn't the main event? Yeah, Mickie and Kiera Hogan were arguing, but that's not a reason for Mickie to suddenly change all of her plans, particularly because there wasn't a level of animosity at the end of their argument. Mickie just kept repeating, let's go to the back. Let's talk about this in the back. Let's talk about this in the back. Kiera kept talking her shit, but eventually they just went to the back. There wasn't anything where Kiera smacked Mickie. She didn't attack her. She didn't do anything like that. I was saying that she should have, but they didn't have that. So all of a sudden, this match getting the main event, when there's not that much heat behind it, seems a little weird. There's actually more heat behind the tag title match than there is this match. Now, I get it. At the same time, Mickie James is the biggest star of the NWA for the female side. So it makes absolute sense to put her in the main event. But if you were going to make this match the main event, why not just have Kiera Hogan attack Mickie at the end of the argument, either last week or the week before? I forget when that was. It just doesn't make sense. There's no heat behind it. It just looks, yes, you have the mentor-mentee relationship, but something about it just feels off. Now, let's talk about the actual match itself. And that match really was the match of the night. This match is really, really, really good. And that's what kind of bothered me about how the match was set up and what was happening within it. There's great grappling wrestling going on. There's great chain wrestling going on. There's some awesome moments where Mickie has to fight out of multiple pinning attempts where she has her shoulders to the mat and she's doing the bridge up, bridge down, bridge up, bridge down. Kiera's trying to add her weight to it. They do the arm off the mat. They do the other arm off the mat. There's some great moments at the beginning of the match. There's physicality throughout the match. Some stiff kicks, as we know are some of Mickie James's trademarks. Mickie is fighting and fighting and fighting in order to make sure that she's able to pick up the win, which she does. But what I think is just ironic about it is Mickie wins the match, but it doesn't really feel like she won anything because there wasn't heat behind this. There wasn't the storyline behind it just doesn't have a lot of meat. Now, and this is where I was talking about before, about the amount of planning and the amount of material that was recorded during the chase tapings. I have no idea how much there was. From what I understand, the tapings were only 2 days long. The fact that they have all these matches is incredible. Granted, the matches are short, but they have them nonetheless. Maybe this is the start of something for Kiera and Mickie that gets concluded by the end of the tapings. I really hope so. I don't have my hopes up, but I hope so. We'll see how all of that plays out. But either way, I got to say, from a match standpoint, this was a really good one. This was it is the match of the night. So check this one out if you get a chance to. I know from time to time, the NWA does put some of the Powerrr episodes and the matches up on YouTube sometime after they have aired on Fight. So if you guys see it, get a chance, try to watch it because it was a really good match. And this was overall, I got to say that this episode was a good episode. They had some hiccups, but really great work. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they continue the men's storylines coming out of this because they did just enough to make sure that things moved along. So until next time, guys, I want to see how By Any Means Necessary is going to factor into all of this because I know that's going to be airing as part of the Powerrr series of episodes. So we'll see how all of that shakes out. So until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in. And remember, take care of yourselves and each other. And I'll catch you guys also here. I'll catch you guys on Fusion of Honor with three-time baby-making champ Ness as we cover MLW Fusion and Ring of Honor. And check us out on Patreon if you can. As always, we appreciate you and we appreciate the time that you spend with us. So until next time, like I said, take care of yourselves and each other.